Ms. Milito.
Thank you very much for inviting me to speak on this topic, but you've heard from many other eloquent representatives of the employer community, most recently Mr. Baskin here, so I'm not going to repeat and just state that NFIB shares the concerns of those representatives. I would just this afternoon like to highlight NFIB's particular objection with the proposal that will require that the voter eligibility list be turned over within 2 days, which for a small business owner would quite frankly be almost impossible. I've spoken in my earlier testimony about the administrative handicaps the small business faces, and I have spoken with small business owners faced with an election petition, and producing the list, the compilation of the information, really brings everything in the office to almost a halt, a grinding halt while they do this. And as Mr. Baskin said, I mean, it really does take them the full 7 days as it is now. So 2 days would really just be impossible. I'm happy to answer any questions, but thank you again for asking me to.
Well, don't employers have to keep track of overtime, and don't they have reporting requirements to other government agencies relative to the number of employees, which employees are working, how many hours, things like that?
Well, certainly they do have lists, but as Mr. Baskin testified, they don't have it in the format required by the board right now. There's not a button they can push where the Excelsior list just comes out. It's the compilation of the information as required by the board that's different. And of course, if you're adding in, requiring other employers provide new information, that's an additional burden too.
Okay.
Can I just ask, I seem to remember that in your introductory comments, it sounded like the NFIB average member is about 10 employees.
Yes.
Was that correct? Okay.
That is correct.
So I assume in terms of the burden, you're talking about not the 10 employer, but some other kind of employer.
Correct, yeah. I mean, our average member, 10 employees, but we certainly have, thousands of members that have,
Okay.
more than 10 employees.
In
yes.
terms of the burden, where do you think based on your experience and your members' experience, where does it start becoming onerous in terms of the number of employees and number of facilities that might be at issue?
I mean, I don't have any hard data, so it's going to be more anecdotal. I mean, I think when you're talking with the 50 to 100 range, kind of in that range there, you still have businesses that don't have, as I said before, a professional HR representative. There's somebody in there that's kind of doing multi-function thing. So anywhere, I'd say around the 50 range. I mean, it is still, it falls on the business owner more times than not. The stories, I mentioned before, I mean, I've talked to a business owner that's helping kind of the office manager, their HR person, pull all this together.
So that's kind of the donut hole.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
And once you get up to how many employees do you actually have in your members' experiences, do they have an independent HR department?
It's usually around 50 to 100, somewhere in there.
When they first
we kind of decide they need some professional help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.